number of record, right? Always, and those records, like one record might be of 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 KB, not more than that, right? In that case, always set a higher block size, right? If you heavy payload, like if you want to process some kind of images, right? If you want to process like data or single data which is in like 1 MB, 2 MB or 3 MB, right? In that case, always set a lower block size, otherwise it will, it will lead to the memory issue. What is max concurrency? So as I mentioned, in block we have a record. If you want to process those record in the parallel, right, then you can set up the max concurrency. If you are not setting the max concurrency, by default into 2 into CPU core quantity. If your computer, if your laptop, or if your if your machine is of 2 V core, right, then it will multiply by 2 into 2, 4. So the degree of max concurrency or degree of parallelism will be 4. So 4 record will be get processed in the parallel, right? But you can set 10, you can set 12, like, it depend on you. But by default, if you are not setting this, it will be into 2 into your machine cores, basically number of cores in your machine, right? In this scenario, like each block will have one record. It is not good practice to process one record in one block. It will help, it will end up in queuing the blocks and execution time will be high. So here, let me open one notepad. So I want to do some calculation. So I have like 100 record, right? I have 100 record and I have set up the block size of 100. So what does this mean? Each, so there will be 100 block, right? So if I set block size of 100, it means 100 block. But how to calculate how many record into the one block? So you can divide by two, like, total number of record divided by total number of block size, which will become 1. So it will 1, right? So it means each block have 1 record, right? So it means total 100 block will process 100 record. This is not good, right? Because it will take a lot of memory, it will take a lot of, and your execution time will be higher. Let me show this. So what I will do, I will take a batch processing, batch job. I will just create batch job, and here I will use on file new update, and I'm just creating this particular listener, which will read the file from the file location and it will start processing. Then I have to use the logger. I generally use the logger. I put the logger here. I will simply write batch job started. Simple. Then I will just take one variable. I want to know the start time at, like, I want to calculate how much total time taken by the job for the execution. So I will time simple. You don't have to do anything. Just put now, right? Then I will serialize my job. So whenever you are sending anything into your batch job, you need to serialize. So I will use serialize the message. So I will use the transform message. Here, it's a simple statement, output application/Java, and I will simply say payload, right? So now here, I want to show the file which I will going to process. Let me close this. It's a small file. Yeah, this is the file which we're going to process. It contains like 100 record having 2 fields, name and phone, basically, right? So this I having the 100 records. And let me copy this path. Not this one. I will copy this file. I will put it test. I'll copy this path and I have to set the path here. I will say directory. And as soon as I read the file, just delete it. Just increase to 10,000 milliseconds. Right? And now I have to configure the Salesforce connector. So I have already done that. So basically, there are multiple connection or authentication type supported by Salesforce, basic OAuth 2.0 or JWT username and password. So I will use the basic authentication. I will just provide username, password, security token, and this particular authorization URL, which is important. Yeah, the latest version is 56, is not 73. Sorry. So yeah, so it's a 56. It's a version of your API. So I just provided this URL. You need to change this particular host. Like this host may vary for for your organization, but this particular path will remain same. Services slash show U56. So I just provided the authorization URL. I will just do the test connection. So I am using the basic authentication. Okay, it is successful. Okay. Now I will use a Salesforce connector with a create operation. So this is the Salesforce connector. I put in the best step, right? And here I need to select the type. So object, right? So there are various objects supported by not supported, like there are various objects available in Salesforce by default: accounts, contact, prospects, leads, opportunities, but I will going to use the account object, and that's it. Like this is the configuration we need to do. But there's a one thing, like when you do serialize, right, it will send a single object to the batch job, but require the Salesforce require the uh, payload in the array basically. So what I will do, I will use in the front of Salesforce connector, and I will just make this as an array. That's it. Save it. I will just save everything. So what we have done, I have created one listener which will read file from the file location. It will log it, then it will set the variable start time. It will serialize the message. Then I just what, like serialize message, like it will, like array have 100 object. It will just send one batch job, right? The batch job basically when it comes into batch step, it will convert it object into array using this square bracket payload. That's it. Then it will create this particular one record to the Salesforce basically one by one. Now at the end, what I have to do, I have to use logger on complete. Once the job a batch job and everything is complete, it will come to this particular on complete. It give a history, it give a complete I will say summary, like how many record has been processed, success, failure, and everything. So what I will do, I just want to calculate the total time taken by this job. I will say now minus bars dot start time. That's it. Let me run stop and something happen. Let me check if I. Okay. Job was running. Let me do one thing. I will delete all the records first again. Yeah, nothing has been added, which is good. I'll copy this file. Let me start the job first. And also, I forget to tell you one thing, which is very important. If you see it here, the batch block size is 100, and the max currency I'm leaving empty. It means it will calculate equal to 2 into number of vCores quantity in your desktop or in your machine or on your server basically. So here what will happen, I am processing the 100 record and block size is 100. It means one record, there will be total 100 block containing one record each. Okay, so let me clear the console and just put my file here. Let's see what happens. It started. Let's wait. Yeah, I have done one mistake here. Okay, that's fine. Like it's not that important. The good, like we need to understand. It will take like 1 minute 20 seconds, something around that. Any question? No question. Batch connector. I never heard. Is there any batch connector available? Let's wait till we get the result. Let me check whether the result is getting added or not. I will just put on the search. Yeah, I can see the results has been added, right? I'll just keep searching. It took a lot of time. Generally, it should happen in the seconds because we are processing record one by one. That is the reason it taking much more time than expected. Yeah, it is completed. I just want to note, I told you like it will take around 1 minute, 1 minute 21 second, 849 milliseconds. Like this is the time taken by your job to complete everything, right? So for processing 100 record, it took more than 1 minute, more than 1 minute, almost more, around 1.5 minute. Second issue, why it took that much of the time? Because it will make 100 connection. For each connection, for each record, it will go and connect Salesforce. It will get the response back. Then, like the second record will again make the connection with the Salesforce. So every time it go and connect to the Salesforce and retrieve the record, right? And that is not good. It is not always a good practice when you are processing large number of record. If you are just make like just have a scenario, or we can have a use case where we have to process the million of record. Let's consider it contain 10 lakhs record or 1 million of 1 million record, for example. What will happen if we are processing one record at a time with the best size of 100, or with the best size of any, let's forget about the best size. If you are processing record one by one, what will happen? It will create 1 million connection. So there might be a rate limiting on the Salesforce side, which can restrict the number of connections, right? So this is not good practice for larger number of record to use to connect the Salesforce or to process the record one by one. Now what we will do, we have some concept called batch aggregator. We can make it of the batch aggregator. So what is the batch aggregator? So let me show the second use case. Or before that, I want to show you one more thing. Let's do one more thing. I will just change the size to 10 block size. So now what will happen? Any guess? So how many block it will going to create, and with how many records? It will create a 10 block, each block, right? So before I move into this, I want to delete this record. Okay, this is good. So let me save and redeploy this. Also, I want to put one more thing, transform message. I want to convert the response JSON and payload. Then also I will log this payload. Just I'm reading, transforming the whatever response coming from this particular operation. I'm just transforming and I'm just printing it. Experimenting with the block size 10. Let's see what happens. See, this is the second use case where like what will happen? We have a total number record 100 and like total record 100 and block size is 10 and 10 record. So it means each block will have a 10 record, and in this each block will have a 10 record, and each block will process sequentially, but record within each block will execute it parallelly basically, right? So like if you have a 10 record and 10 record basically in one block, it means all these 10 records will process parallelly. So it will be more faster than the block size we have selected 100 basically, because we are not achieving any level of parallelism in the with the block size 100 and each block size containing one record, right? So let me show if it's got processed. Yeah, let me pick the file again. Let me paste it here. Let's wait. Yeah, it's faster also. You can see we are getting the response. How much time it took? It took just 13 second 0.388 basically, right? It took very lesser time. So earlier it was 1 minute 21 second, because in this particular thing like we are able to achieve parallelism. So generally what we say, if you want to process large number of record, always keep the block size higher, right? Whenever you want to process the, don't keep the block size higher basically, because like you need to do some kind of testing and you need to identify what is the good block size, right? So let me show you what I have done, some kind of experiment. So I have like processed 500,000 record with a size with a 10 block size. It means the 50,000 record in each block, which took around 14.4 minutes to process all the record. Then I use the same number of record, increase the block size, and like each block contain 10,000 record, which took 3.3 minutes. But when I start using the block size between 100, 500, and 1000, the response is almost similar. So either you can go with a 100 block size or 500 block size for this 500,000 records, basically, right? So so basically you can do some kind of experiment initially and finalize your block size. What is the good block size for your records, basically? So that is how you can do that. You try with a different block size and just come up with one of the block size, basically. Here in this case I will definitely go with 100, because there's not a big difference between 100 and the 500 block size. It's almost a difference of 1 second, right? So yeah, so that is how you can create perform the experiment or perform some kind of testing and finalize the block size. Okay, now batch aggregator. So there is some concept also known as a batch aggregator, where even now you have select the block size 10, right? It is again and again making the connection with the Salesforce. Like it will make 100 connection with the Salesforce, right? How I can avoid that? So there is something called aggregation. So batch aggregator. So batch provide some concept called batch aggregation, where you can do the aggregation of the messages, and you can send that array of object or array of object of messages to the Salesforce. So for example, if I have a 300 record, and if I set a batch size of 200, so it will create a two batch, right? One with a 200 and one with a 100, right? And only so whenever it will send to the Salesforce, it will send the first batch into the same connection, right? It will not create a multiple connection. All the 200 record, array of 200 record into same connection, then it means it is creating one connection. Then the second batch it will send with 100 records there, right? And it will make a second connection. So there will be total two connection. In two connection it will able to process all the 300 record, which is good, right? If I am not using the batch processing, it may took 300 connections with the Salesforce for processing the all record, right? So let's see how we can set up this. Okay, so what I will do, all this thing, i will I will use batch aggregator. Here we don't have to convert into array, because batch aggregator will automatically does for you. I will bring this create operation here. I will just transform message. I will log it, and I have to set the size of 200. That's it, and just save it. So you have a batch aggregator component where you can set the size of 200. You can also enable the streaming in case if your payload is very high and you don't want to you don't want any memory out of exception issue. You can make use of the streaming also. Okay. So let me do the console. It is now I will pick the file with a 300 records. It's done. Let's see how much time it. Say it took 4 seconds or something around, like 4 seconds for completing everything, basically. So it's a very less time, like previously we have seen, like for processing the 100 record with a batch size 100, it took 1 minute 21 second. Then like we have decreased the batch size to 10, then it took around 15 seconds. But here now we are start using the batch aggregator, the time is more reduced to the 4 second, basically, right? So let me go back and search whether the record has been added or not. Yeah, I can see. Let me delete all this record, because I have some restriction with this particular account where I cannot add more records. So I want to do the test for 11,000 record where I will require good space. Okay. Any question before Pankaj? Is there any question?
No, no, I don't see any versions for that.
Oh, okay. So now what till now what we have seen till now we have seen like processing record one by one, then processing the record in the aggregation. But now I want to show you one more thing. If I do the batch size, like aggregation, like if I change the batch aggregator batch size to 300, what will happen? Let's see. Now, what will happen in this particular scenario? If I place the file of 300 record, right? So each batch will contain 300 record. It means everything should be happening in the one batch, basically, like in the single Salesforce connect. And let's see what happens. I think we should get some kind of error. Why? I will tell you. I want to show you that scenario also. Yeah, we got the error. Can anybody tell me why we got this particular error? It's simple because Salesforce only allow the array which contain 200, not exceed more than 200. Otherwise, Salesforce will throw error. So that is the limitations comes with this particular create operation. So Salesforce cannot allow more than 200 record in one batch or in one message or in one. It should not contain more than 200 record. Otherwise, it will going to throw the error basically. That is why. So in this case also, if you have a million number of record, this may take a lot of time because it is not allowing to process more than 200 records, right, at a time. Okay, so this is the limitations comes with this create operation. So you cannot process more than 200 record in the single batch. Okay, let me go with the third scenario. We have done third. So now what we can do for that, we can use like bulk API. So bulk API, what is the, it allow you to process like millions of record, but in single batch, it should contain 10,000 basically. You can submit the job with a millions of records. Salesforce will take care of, batching the records in the background and it will start processing. You don't have to worry about any kind of, batching or anything. You don't have to do anything basically. You just have to submit the record in the CSV format. That's it. Like create the job on the Salesforce side. We have a connector for that. I will going to show all the operations for that particular connector. And like whenever you submit the job, it have a forge status: upload completed. As soon as you complete, like upload up, you send the job, it will say upload completed. Or like in case if something is happening in the background, it will say in progress. And if something got failed, it will say failed. And once everything has been processed, it will send the job complete status. These are the four status maintained at the Salesforce in that bulk API basically. Okay, so let me show that. So I will remove this from here. What I will do, and I will not going to use any batch processing here because I just want to submit the job. I don't want to worry about all this batching and everything. So I will just use on, and let me copy the path. Okay, so I again use the file connector here, and now like then I can use the logger. I will say bulk uploading started. Then I will search for bulk API. So basically, you can have a create job bulk API. Just drag and drop this. You can use the same connection config which you have created. It will automatically take. Then I use the account object. You have to select what is the object type in the Salesforce. Then you can select the operation hard delete insert. I want to do the create, so I will use the insert. The line encoding. So what is the line encoding? So my line in ending with a CRLF, comma. In CSV, what is your delimiter? It's a comma. I will use the comma. That's it. Like you don't have to do the other configuration. Now I want to see the response back coming from the Salesforce. So I will use the transform message. So if you see, it will publish the metadata also. So these are the things coming back in this response. The two things are important: ID and state. I think where is the state? Yeah, state. So as I mentioned, state can be in progress, failed, job complete, upload complete. These two things are very important because once you submit the job, how you can track the job basically with this particular ID. So it's a unique ID written by the Salesforce. So you can use that ID to know the status of your job basically, whether the record has been processed successfully or not. This ID is a very important. I will going to show that demonstration also. So transform message, I will just come transform to JSON and I will just say payload. Then I will log this. Save all. Okay, so I will clear the console. I will pick the file with the 300 record again. I just paste it and let's see. It submitted the job and we got the response back. So if you see upload complete basically, right? So you can see the upload complete, copy this ID and you can also see the job status. Just remove everything, just keep the remove everything and just say control V enter. So right now if you see the job status is upload completed. Yeah, you can see 300 record, has been processed successfully. So how much time it took? 1979, So you don't have to do anything. Everything has been taken care in the background. You just submitted the job. You can find everything here basically. It's a completed and maximum time it took 250 milliseconds. So everything you can see all the details. So this is the job. It create one empty job. It does nothing but the main job is this basically. Or I will instead of job I will say batch. So there is a two batch. One batch is empty. So for example, if we are sending the 11,000 record, right? You will see three batches basically, right? One with the empty, one with the 10,000 record, one with the 1,000 record basically. As I mentioned, so in one batch, it can process more up to 10,000 records, not more than that. So let me search if record came or not. Yeah, we can see record has been successfully inserted into the Salesforce. I want to see a lot of what are the things you can do with this upload. It's just a small use case I have just shown you. I will going to explore more detail on this. Okay. So the next thing, if I want to check, status of this particular ID, what I can do, just paste this ID. I will write one more API, HTTP listener, right? And I want to fetch the state of this particular job. So I can simply say slash state. Then I have to search bulk API. There is a state job, retrieve job state. Yeah. This is the get job state. Okay. So I have to pass the job ID. So what I can do, I can pass my job ID into my query parameters. Dot ID. Right? Then I can use the transform message, convert it to JSON, payload, then logger. So let me save it and let me create the URL for this. So I will say HTTP localhost 8081 slash state id is equals to, okay, this is my URL. I copy this. So job has been still running. Okay, I'll go to browser. I'll just execute. Okay, let me check. Something is wrong. It's not query string, it's query params. Let it be redeployed. Yeah, we got the response here. You can see the state is job complete, right? You can see it here. The job is completed, right? The next thing, let me do one thing. Like if I want to track a state live, right? So till it doesn't get succeeded, what you can do. So I have something like, what I can do. I will just set the variable. So basically, if you see in response, we have something called, state, right? So what I can do here, I will just set one variable here, right? And I will just say state, and here I will say payload dot state. Okay, and I will use the choice router here until successful. Right, and I will show you what I'm doing. Bulk API get state. Here I'm just putting get state into the until successful. So in get state, I have to just pass a job ID. I don't want to set this state. It's a job ID, I think. Let me check. That's ID payload dot and I will simply say job ID. Okay, and I can say vars dot job ID. Just passing it. Here I'm using choice router, and I will go to configuration XML. Put when here, go to message flow. In this particular when condition, what I can do, I can say payload dot state is equals to job complete. Okay. So if it's job completed, then I can say transform message here, JSON payload, and simply log it, payload. Then I can again say payload dot state is equals to failed. Then again I will use the transform message, say payload JSON logger payload. Okay. Then what is happening here? Let's consider. So why I use until successful? Let me explain you. So let's consider I am creating a job basically, right? So I'm creating a job into the Salesforce. So Salesforce will take care of handling or processing the record in the background. So now what I'm doing here, so as soon as I got a response, I'm just capturing the ID from that particular response. In until successful, what I'm saying, till I don't get a job complete. or I don't get a state failed, right? It should get into the until successful. It should remain into the until successful. It will keep on calling this particular method until it doesn't get job completed or failed. Otherwise, it will raise an error. So if doesn't it will not raise the error. It will uh, come out of this until successful. Till that, it will remain, it will remain basically in this particular choice router or in this until successful. So I can use like something called mule, or like data error, account error. Okay. And this is just intentionally I am setting this error so it can remain into the until successful. So I can say retries between 60 seconds will be too much. I will just say 30,000 seconds. Okay. Save everything. So what will happen? So it will pick the file, it will create a job, it will set the ID, then it will go to until successful till it doesn't get job complete or failed state. It will retry for the 5 times, for every 30 minutes, and it will till that it doesn't get that failed or job complete. It will keep on raising the error, which means it will stay into until successful. Okay, let me save this. Yeah, I save it, and let me pick the file of 10,000 records, 11,000 records. Just place this here. Yeah, I got this ID. Copy this. See, it got error, right? So it is trying to attempt. And let me check the Salesforce side. What is happening there? As I mentioned, like, it will create some kind of record with 1,000 record. It should create almost 10 record with a 10,000 and 1,000. Let's see. It will show. It will get increased. Let refresh. 4,800. So 1,000 is been successfully processed. 40 like out of 10,000, 4,800 has been processed. It is getting processed in the background. What happening there? We got it done the second attempt. It again got the error. Yeah, it is expected because it still done 6,600 record, 8,200. Hopefully it will complete it before it get 5 retry. It will complete. See, some of the record has been failed because like there are some limitations in my account. It doesn't allow to add more and more record, which is that is fine. Hoping like it will complete. It done third attempt. Great, it has completed. Yeah, 1,800 is error because my account doesn't have. I want to see what error, what response comes. And also I mentioned like each batch will process 10,000 record, and everything split will be done in the background by the Salesforce itself. You just submit the record, it will. Yeah, now I got the response basically saying job complete, right? So this is good. Now like if I want to submit a query, so if you are using the normal query submission, right, a normal query operation, it will not allow to fetch the 10,000 or 11,000 record. It will allow to fetch the maximum 200 records. But with a bulk query you can submit the query, and then the asynchronously you can retrieve the result of this query. Let me show that also. Create batch for query. Oh no, create query job bulk API. Okay, here you have to pass a query. So I will just say select what are the fields name. Let me check name and the font. Accounts. Done. That is fine. Okay. So I will just use HTTP listener again here, right? And at the end, I will use transform message. I will use query. Okay. So let me save this. Hopefully this will work. I think it's account, not accounts. Yeah, it's account. So I completed. We got a job ID back. Okay, so we have get job. Use this. Get the state of the job. Why it's saying 750. Okay, let me check on the. It's there. I don't know why it's not coming from there. So it record process like 9229. So let me refresh it. It will be more, I think. Okay, there are some record got failed. That's why it's showing here. So it's 9229. So now I want to, if I want to retry this particular result, right? So we have other operation. I'll quickly do it. So there is something called a get query job result. I can put it here. And here again, I can just pass like attributes dot query params dot ide, right? Then I can use HTTP listener. In listener, I can say report, then transform message, payload, JSON, logger, payload. Okay. So I'm just retrieving the result for that particular query. Let me copy the ID. Yeah, we got the result. Let's see, right? So that is how you can submit the query and get the query back from Salesforce basically. So like sometime you need like if you are using the normal Salesforce query operation, it will not allow to fetch more than 200 record. If you want to fetch the million of record and you need to synchronize with other system, you can use this particular approach. So we have something called query create query job bulk API, and if you want to retrieve the result, you can use the get query job result. So you get the ID in this particular create query, use that ID to retrieve the job result basically. Right? So I think we have seen all the five use cases. So any question?
Yeah, there are some questions, JB.
Yeah. There's a no limitation on maximum aggregator size. Okay, by default, Salesforce only support 200. If you are sending more than 200 record in the one aggregate batch, right? It will not allow. Basically, it will error out. Salesforce API have a limitation basically. Okay, it is that is how it designed. So if you want to process like 10,000 records, so you can go with a bulk API approach. And in bulk API, good thing like you don't have to worry about the batching. You don't have to worry about any other thing basically, the memory block size. You don't have to worry about all those things, right? It will be automatically taken care by the Salesforce. You just submit the job, you just submit the record, everything will be taken care in the back. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah. See, Salesforce bulk connect. I don't know what is the batch connector. I've never heard about the batch connector basically. Okay, so batch processing, like, see, it's there's an in batch processing you need to define all the logic, block size, like whether you want to do the streaming, right? How you want to process the record, right? So that you need to define that particular logic, right? So everything has to be like error handling. Everything things needs to be taken care by you in batch job or in like in the bulk API. You just have to submit the record in the CSV format to the Salesforce. Batching and everything will be taken care by the Salesforce basically. You don't have to worry about anything, like you don't have to worry about the memory utilization or CPU utilization. You just submit the job. You need to have that much memory for submitting the job to the Salesforce, right? Rest of the thing will be taken care. Yeah. Any other question? So Pankaj, like I have like what happened if we get error while inserting data? See, as I mentioned, like you are not inserting, you are just submitting the job, right? Then we have some kind of like I will tell you some kind of API or some kind of operations available basically, right? So where like let me show API. So you have to retrieve it, like retrieve job failed result, right? Retrieve job successful result. So you need to check, like you need to once the processing is complete, you can use these two methods. You just submit the ID and get what are the result has been failed, what are the result has been successful. So you can do that. Like you make use of these particular operations. Got it?
Jackie, I'm checking if anyone wants to speak. If,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. So let's make more interactive. Okay, Tulsi Rao.
I hope like I have clear. I have like I try to cover all the use cases starting from simpler to the bulk API. So always I will suggest like want to process million number of record, go with this bulk API. It's a very good feature provided by Salesforce, and MuleSoft has already added the operation in their connector to support the bulk API v2. See, like you don't have to worry about anything in the back, like batching and everything. Basically, you don't have to do the batching. You just have to submit the file, right? Everything will be taken care in the background.
Tulsi Ram, you want to speak? Are you're good now?
Sorry, sir, I was speaking in mute. I don't have anything. Thanks, Jitendra, for explaining in detail.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Thanks for confirming. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone, or anyone wants to ask further? Sure, Arvind. Just a minute. Yeah, Arvind, you can go now. Uh,
Hey, hi, Jitendra Pankaj. Thanks for
Yeah, hi.
yes. So my question, the challenge is that sometimes okay, Mule have a capability that to process the millions of records, but the issue is that when we're trying to fetch from some any other sources, okay, suppose want to fetch the millions of records.
Hmm.
So what is the best way to do that? Suppose from the file, suppose from the any source like Salesforce or any database, other
See,
APIs.
in this case, like it's all completely depend on like how much vcore you are allocating, right? How
Hmm.
much memory available. See, like if your available memory is 1 GB and you try to process the file of 2 GB, right? It will not going to happen, right?
Right.
That is not going to happen, like and also there's the other way, like you can like you make use of the streaming, where like it like it will ensure the memory management, like you have a memory based streaming, file based streaming, right? So those kind of approach can be used. So basically, like I will simply say it's completely depend on like memory you have, like disk size or storage you have basically. For example, you are allocating zero point 0.1 vcore, right?
Hmm.
Which provide like 8 GB of spaces, right? 8 MB of something around that, right? And 1 GB of RAM, something like that.
Okay.
So in that particular space, if you are trying to process 10 GB of data, it will not going to happen, right?
Right.
So that you need, the sizing needs to be proper. You need to know your requirement, like how much data you are going to process in particular time period, right? And you need to have that particular memory available. So let's consider if your server
Yes.
have a 1 GB of memory. Out of 1 GB might be 0.5 GB available to mule runtime, and 0.5 GB may be available to other things, right? Other
Right.
things. So in that case, it's a simple logic. If you are processing 2 GB of file for in the 0.5 GB of RAM, it will not going to happen, right?
Right.
So sizing is very important. And sizing doesn't comes like there's no standard guidelines, and it was not written anyway like how much recourse we need to allocate for 1 million see it, nobody can predict it. It depend, you need to do some kind of testing, you need to allocate it some different, you need to try with different vcores, because it depend on various factors like your payload size, right?
Mhm.
It depend on your payload size, like how many messages is coming in the per second, right? So
Mhm.
apart from that, what is your response time from the like response time from your client server basically, right? How quickly your server is responding. So these all factors needs to be considered when you are doing the sizing, especially in this particular batch processing. And you need to also consider other batch processes are running at the same time or not, right? If you are talking about the mule runtime on premises, but if you are talking about cloud, everything will run isolated. And so there are various factors needs to be considered. I mean, like nobody can tell like directly without testing, without trial and error, like how many cores or how many space will require for processing these particular records, right? But at least for this bulk API for Salesforce. Because Salesforce have something called bulk API, right? Where
Right.
like if you are also sending 1 GB of data, or like 1 GB of data, it will automatically handle in the background, right now, right now. So like you don't have to allocate much space. Like it only required that much of space. It can hold 1 GB of file.
Right. Because I gone through this process actually. So what I did, okay, generally what happened, we are keeping so many transformers, loggers, and other processing,
Yeah.
going over there. So what I did, suppose in the files, I tried with the files. After immediate the files actually, okay, because I want to page the data records, that 5 million records. So immediately I kept the batch processing over there. Okay, I have not
Hmm.
given any gap between to process that records in the Mule. Okay, in other components. So that I have achieved that way actually recently.
But you
Just
you
as a
just
POC, yes,
explore the streaming
yes,
also. Sometimes
yes,
what happen, you don't have much space, right?
right.
So basically with the streaming, what it will do, it will write the file on the disk, it will read some content, like it will load some content to your RAM or to your memory, and it
Hmm.
will start processing. It will not like load all the content to your memory. So basically, if you are saying like you are allocating 512 MB of space, right? Or
Hmm.
1200 MB of a buffer size. So it
Right.
will only load the content of 512 MB, 512 MB of content into your memory. Rest of it will be on the disk only, right? So you can utilize the streaming also. Streaming is also good
Yes, yes.
way to improve the performance, or uh, to ignore the error like
Right.
memory errors or
Yes.
out of memory exceptions, those kind of things.
Right, right, right.
So you can use the mix of this batch and streaming, right? if
Hmm.
you if you like when the block size is also very important, as I mentioned, I've shown you, right,
Right.
how the time can increase or decrease with the block size. So you need to be intelligent in setting up the block size. So best way, do some kind of testing, right, with a different block size. So there will be situation where where you will get a consistent result with with the increasing of the block size. I shown you, right, with 500 and 1000 block size I'm getting the same result, right? Then you can decide on that part.
Yes. Right, right. Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind, for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, team, I have said that Faridabad Meetup page where all other sessions are lined up to coming up, right? So, and also we have our LinkedIn page. So please follow for further sessions update. And Rohit will update on the email or like once the recording is available. Okay. You want to go? Can I ask? MCIA question certification question.
No, no, not allowed.
Yeah.
It's not good way, right? Yeah, but you can ask question, but not related to any certification, right, Pankaj?
Yeah, we can yeah, certification might be not, but yeah, if you have some confusion something, yeah, we can try to resolve to your path, or we can say the direction.
Yeah. Yeah, you can ask like, not
Yeah.
related to certification. Like you can ask any question.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, I think we are good now to close.
Okay.
Thank you, JB, for your time.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Pankaj. Thanks,
everyone, for
everyone.
joining.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you.
Thank you.